This is Gary Greene. Welcome, Gary. Excited to have you. We haven't totally determined, but we kind of like Gary's Greene District or
Well,
what?
for the live which was called my betting library, I would call that the Gary Greene or Greene Light District.
Green light. I love
Yeah,
it.
Greene
Yeah,
Light
that means go, go, go. I'm going to give
Right,
out a
Green
little
Light.
tip for tonight. Go, 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 Bo, Bo, Bo. That's my dark
Exactly.
horse. Mr. Bobo tonight from UCLA is playing receiver, one of the long shot. I know that's not the guy you like, and we won't get
I
into
like
that
Lockett and I like Hyatt. I like Hyatt for a 67-yard touchdown tonight.
I like that. You're giving out the end of the plays in the beginning, but Gary, this is and I don't know what we'll do with this recording. This is probably the fourth call I've had. We're gonna have some exciting, fun things with Gary and in Sportstopia. We're gonna create a product that we think is rather unique. In just because Gary's unique, I'm different. That's why I came up with Contrarian. I couldn't call it the different edge optimizer, so I called it the Contrarian edge optimizer. But yesterday or over the weekend, Gary officially got into fantasy football, DFS, and then he crushed and he officially retired undefeated. So we wanted everybody to know that. He doesn't do fantasy. He's been involved in the wagering space for many moons. I think you can tell the story. You came out from New Jersey when Las Vegas was the only state that was legally available, unless you had a bookie that you said you located on every corner. So go ahead and say hello, Gary. Great to have you today.
Definitely was an interesting move. There was 307 people living in Vegas and 302 were men, so that wasn't really a positive. Actually, there was 100,000 people here. That's all. There's 2.6 million now. But the other funny part is that there was only 3 high schools. 3. I think I don't know the exact number, but it's over 150 now. That's how crazy it's gotten over. But it's 35 years, But back then there was basically a simple this street to this one, boom, both sides. One side called the west, you cross the strip called the east side, west side, and you couldn't get lost. When I first came, I didn't know one person, and I asked a guy something one time, and he said, well, you can't get lost if you could see. You always just have to look for the strip, whatever side you're on, and then you'll be able to get your balance. And that was true. Now, of course, it's branched out so wide, it's not even funny. But
were the running rebels
even
around
the casinos at first, I think there was only about 20, and then quickly in fact, the Mirage was just getting built in my first couple of years here. So that was neat to watch that one day I went by and I saw they were dropping off they had just dropped them off this palm trees, just lined up for it seemed like a mile to me. And I thought, oh man, because I thought that was the coolest thing, the palm trees when you come here from a place back east. I always knew, saw that when I went to California, but coming to Vegas, that was pretty cool. And then, just the differences now. It's back then it was like mobster owned and totally run differently. Now it's all corporate run, and everybody, as far as even sports books, except for maybe the Circa, they're not going to allow winners. You just basically get kicked out. If you're a big player in the pit or the other places, they probably keep you around unless they think you're card counting at blackjack. But for the most part, you're going to, you're going to have to be shut out. And it's someone like me, my profession, it's tougher now. I always thought of fantasy people, which, that was my joke. And don't forget, I did do the fantasy. That was a long run. It was tiring, that 2 days. But I just don't want to forget. I just don't want to forget that I want to thank nobody. That's always my favorite line.
Well, I left you a message, and I think you graciously stepped aside because you're giving me the spotlight. You're going to stay in your wheelhouse, and this is my new wheelhouse, right? So you did.
it is
what I
fun,
loved
but,
it.
you know, to watch the games, and even knowing who you have or who I told you, you know, certain different players per se, and then you seemed like I lose my focus on what it should be of just once the picks are in, they're in. So whatever I bet it's in, but I have to try to look at the game neutral and take my notes and try to pay attention as best as I can. I still haven't really seen the New Orleans game at all, and I haven't seen the Tennessee game at all. So those games,
Tennessee made the Bengals look pretty bad.
yeah, and you know that's kind of why I never started paying attention to it at all, because I said, well, and there's no surprise there. No surprise. Burrow shouldn't even be playing. If you're going to play on one leg and every play is the defense knows you're going to throw it within a second, so that not just that he can get the ball off, they don't want him getting hit. And I guarantee you that's what's going to happen when I watch that tape. The other the team they played yesterday, Tennessee, was more of a, they saw this the week before. So last week when they got away with a little bit was one thing. This week they weren't getting away with it again.
So yeah, Burrow the statue without, I mean, he got smashed. Result. I'm surprised he's not, I mean, he literally got hit a few times.
I don't know how they could go forward another. They have to just sit him down for a week or two and no practice, nothing, and see what happens. But, you know, and that's the very, very toughest thing about, you know, fantasy is a little different when you're betting on the game itself, a side or a total. Key players, one guy could change that whole outcome. You know, where your fantasy, you could have a bad pick in there and still maybe be able to outrun it. But, you know, when I'm watching on all my TVs across, and you know, when I always used to think, my friend used to tell me his bets, I told you, that would play in one game on a fantasy. He says, I'm not going to bet games. I want to bet my fantasy game. And he goes against one other guy for $500. And I say, okay, who do you have? And I would give him a guy sometimes, you know, like I did with you, a couple guys, whatever. I'd say, hey, I really like this defense. Like I like Dallas's defense on the weekend. I said, oh, you got to put in a defensive team, take this team and maybe a receiver, sleeper, whatever. Because I always knew that it's easy to just say, I'm going to take Pat Mahomes and I'm going to take Tyreek Hill, but you can't have that team. You know what I mean? I don't think.
Can't take Kelce anymore. He's taken by Taylor Swift.
Yeah, you can't take everybody that's the highest price at their position. You wouldn't have any money left to buy the other players, you know.
Well, you understand a little bit about fantasy, but just so people know, and this is documented, but Gary gave out Friday night, Oregon State. In fact, he moved the line. He said
I didn't move the line.
I just joking. Yeah. But the
when
Gary liked it, it was Oregon State plus one.
Yeah, it was. They were under, which I was stunned.
-4 all the way up to
close. They won by 14. Saw a couple 4.5s.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then WNBA, which I think I know the Liberty, about the Liberty. That's I've never, right? And I know there was I know Notre Dame had
But Las Vegas, our team won the championship last year.
Yeah.
So it was a foregone conclusion, really, unless people got hurt. The championship was going to be the Liberty and the Aces. They're by far, they became super teams. The other teams didn't really even have a chance. But I had hit those two. And then yesterday I gave out on my website, the game free. So I had Connecticut against the Liberty, plus 5.5. I liked Connecticut. I thought they might be able to steal that game and win and push that to a 5th game, which I would have then taken the Liberty in game 5. But it's funny because I was dominating. I was ahead. And then like a New York second, boom, it went from 0, winning to down 6 with a minute to go. And you're like, damn, I'm going to have to hit 3-pointers now. And I hit 2. And in the end, The Liberty took a 3-point lead. The other Connecticut, my team, had one last shot. I said, please miss the three. And the dumb girl got the ball and could have took a 3, and she drove to the basket.
They were listening to you.
And they lost. And the announcer's like, no. I'm like, yes. And then she knew she made a blunder. But then, thank God, the game didn't go into overtime. But it's always nice if you give out, certain picks on the site for free. I hate to do it. I hate to do it for one reason, because when you lose that game as a free pick and you have a big day, like yesterday, I had a good day. I went 4-1. If I would have went 5-0 and that free pick as the 6th play loses, people, it kind of looks bad. It looks like, oh, okay, sure. Now, if I win the free pick and go 0-5, everybody's good with that. That's okay.
They didn't lose anything, right? It's
No,
free,
and
but-
that's why I told you on a call a couple earlier on one of our earlier calls, when you have, like, your site's going to be set up now in a bigger way. I don't know what the optimizer spits out for people or what it's leaning to, where people, if they buy something and it doesn't win, they're going to get pissed off. And I'll tell you the reason why people buy picks. The reason why people buy picks is because when you lose on your own, all you could do is go in front of your own mirror and go, you stinking effing, oh, wait, that's me that made the pick, meaning whoever Joe Blow out there, whoever they are. You lose on your own, no one to complain to, you got to take the blame. You buy Gary's picks or anybody else's picks, but if I lose, you now go in the mirror. You don't go in the mirror, you go on your phone and call up, you bleeping effing, I lost a lot of money. So that's what you're giving up. So that guy that has to answer the phone, and I answered that phone myself for like the first 20 years. And then you get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I'm always in the research phase. I mean, I'm always working. So there's no more days off. It's not like I could say, hey, on Tuesday. Now, tomorrow normally would be an easy day. That would be, quote unquote, my easiest day. But it's not an easy day because you're already trying to beat the line for next week before the real moves come. But playoffs start tomorrow. And then, of course, it's double. I'm a Phillies fan. Philly season.
You do much baseball? I know you're a big Phillies fan.
Well, yeah. And so that they'll start playing tomorrow, which means Tuesday, Wednesday, if they go to the third and deciding game Thursday. So there will be no days off because I'll be interested in that as a fan. I will bet on those games, but it's not the same as the
Phillies had the home field and the wild card, right? They play at home against who?
Miami.
Miami. Yeah. Miami has some pitching, but
I wanted Miami. I wanted Miami. I wanted them over the other, two teams that made it. So it worked in my favor there. But you stay busy. You're always busy. So, when you win, I used to have so many people that would be, it works both ways. I have so many good clients, so many good people, so many that have been on for 35 years. Okay. So we're kind of like family, even though we're not. If they come to town, I see them, I buy them dinner, they buy me dinner. I have clients that send me, Aruba vacations, go to my place, my timeshare. They're so rich. Go any week you want of these weeks, during the summer, whatever. So, you have a different bond. They're not going to complain, but I even tell the people, don't even call me to say thanks. If you want to send an email, send it, but I don't even need it because it's just going to fill up my box, where I have to look for important emails. And I say, I appreciate it at the end of the year. If people win, I have some really good people that I give half my money to charity, but they give a portion of the winnings. So that's nice. I mean, so you're kind of in a way giving back at the same time. Now, of course, you have to win. It's always nice. I count October 1st. And I'm not playing tonight's game, but if I did, I would count these wins, losses for September, even though yesterday was October 1st. So the people are already up 26 units. And that's not by going like a lot of guys, like I told you, do 5 units, 10, 50, 100. You could be one game ahead at 100 units per play. And then you'd say, I'm up 100 units in $1,000 better's up 100,000. Well, that's how did he bet that? Then he bet 100,000 on your pick. You know what I mean? So it's all deception. It's a crooked business. But the hardest thing that you guys, will have where that guy that we hire to do that, taking the calls or taking emails, like my guy does that, his name's Big Mike, but Big Mike is the one who takes the headaches, and he's pretty good about it. He won't even tell, because there's just haters, and that's why I said if that free pick lost, there would be 50 guys they were waiting there. They're like watching that game. Hope please lose. Oh, Greene lost. You lost. I got killed now. I lost 15 million. Now I got to cut back to 50 a game. But you're going to help me get that back, right? I'm not going to have to pay for it, right? So that's what you get in this business. It's a. That's
a little different than fantasy. The fantasy we provide with the optimizer.
I don't know what transpires, because all these people that have, now it's AI, right? So in a way it's like AI and people been trying that for 20 years, 30 years with picks, I got the computer and the computer's going to tell me to picks. And I'm like, okay, bro. And it's funny.
Guess who else has a computer?
Well, there's a guy in Connecticut.
No, you know who has it too? The books. They have their computers. So
everybody has it, right. And people, the greatest line of betting is that when the games go close, like I saw some funny memes. We'll have to do a page. Remind me that though. We'll have to do a page of funny memes on the website because it's funny. And I see them on the Twitter, and there was one where it was like the mobster guys, and the mobster guy's on the phone, and he's like, hey, listen, don't forget, we need the Jets tonight. All the money's on Kansas City. So make sure you take a knee there at the end. And, and so when the guy does it, quickly, everybody thinks that the game, somehow Vegas or, and it was always the name Vegas as the moniker. Now, of course, it's everywhere. And the funny part even of that is when people say Vegas, betting in the other countries like England was 10 times bigger than even Vegas was, over all these years. There was a shop on every block that you can walk in and bet. And of course, to me, it was like being a little kid at Christmas when I moved here, even if there was only 20 casinos. They weren't 20 different lines because some people owned more than one, but there was about 8 or 9 at least lines. So that
was there arbitrage back then? Could you do spreads?
What do you mean?
Middle.
Oh yeah, me and my friend did do something. We did that. I've never done that in my life, but we did do it for a few years. Me and my friend did it for the NBA. And the NBA, what would happen is there was no computer, there was no internet, but the Stardust would put up sheets in these glass cases, and there was a little room. It was called like the library or whatever. And you went in there, and we'd look at the line the night before, and or the last scores, and I'd say this game's going to be a high scoring game probably, and they would put up the total at say 200, and that's the only thing people had. So everybody we knew, and even if we didn't like it, but the line would go open 200 and close 210 because that was the only thing you had. So everybody
would move that much, huh?
And so we'd bet the over 200, and then we would bet under 210. And you have to hit, 1 out of 20 to be okay.
Nice.
If you could hit 2 out of 20, you were ahead whatever you were betting. So we did that. But that's extra work.
And you're saying, and when people are, I think most know, but you got in the middle, right? You want it to end up between 200 and 210. Pushes push, right? Ties push.
Yeah.
And,
oh yeah. If it landed 200, you'd win one side and lose. It was always good. Yet, but that was every day. Now, I don't.
Just like you said, that Oregon State game, it wouldn't have paid. You would have, right? That Oregon State opened at +1, ended up -4.5, but it ended up 14, so it didn't in the middle. But that would have been an example of today.
Sure,
you could have done it, right? People still do that.
And there are groups that do it. These guys that are. you know, they pool money together. There's a guy in town, I won't say his name, but he does it. And, you know, it's not like, you know, I used to do a show on Sunday night and the lines would come out at 5 o'clock and my show was at 8. And I'd go on and I'd say, look, if you're going to bet these sides, these weren't my picks, but if you're going to bet any one of these, say 8 games, you got to bet right now. Get down here, bet these right away. If you're going to take the other side of these games, just wait and as long as you can. You can wait till Saturday kickoff or Sunday half hour before, because they made a mistake. These are mistakes, and they're going to move. And I would be right 90% of the time. It didn't matter. I wasn't giving a pick out. I was just giving line shopping help. And of course, now there's a lot of places, but you know, even some of these big places in Vegas, they don't even have lines up until this morning, like for games where the Circa opened up next week's college games at like noon on Saturday. The games hadn't even been played yet this week. So there's a risk factor, you know, they're taking a risk.
I mean, it seems like, don't they, and you would know this more, but don't they put lines out to try to see public and then they adjust them, right? So that's always that beginning thing.
It's not so much the public. The first people that are going to whack them is the pros like me. So they know they're going to get hit, but just like the Stardust, when I moved here with the lottery, they used our picks, our bets first, and then adjusted before they opened up the line to the masses, to the public. You get it? So we did show them if there was a lot of pros hitting, they said, oh, we made a mistake on that. We made a mistake on Oregon State at +1. And before you knew it, the Oregon State would be -3. You see? So before anybody else could have bet that, anybody, it would be moved. They took a little hit, but now the masses, they thought we got it right now. You know what I mean? But
well, that Jets game last night, that was an example of the opposite way, because they say that what I read was that everybody was on Kansas City except for the sharps at the end came in, because that line fluctuated between, I saw it 7.5, 8, and 9.5. Right. Yeah, and then all of a sudden the sharps, right, which would be the pros, they came back and bet the Jets, right?
Well,
and so
and see
and the books were happy because they took 80% of the money on Kansas City, and so the books were happy, the sharps were happy because they scooped in and won.
Oh, sure. So, and see, for the books, the biggest thing was that they needed a Kansas City straight up loss, because then all the people at money line parlays get knocked out, crushed. The teaser bets, depending on where you were, you might have still snuck in a win, but you might not have, you know, depending on when you bet. So even that, you know, I used to give a teaser of the week in my magazine for years. Last year, I was giving out teasers once in a while. I haven't given any yet. In fact, when I was just finishing up my records, you know, to do the accounting work, it's funny that for 34 years, I used to be one of the best college football total players. Totals. Okay. College, tremendous, but totals, I dominate. So far this year in college football, I've only had 7 totals in 4 weeks. And that's because they changed the rules with the clock running. And I just don't still have any feel, you know, like there's going to be a game here and there where like next week, Texas, Oklahoma. To me,
usually like, always in the 70s. Right?
Yeah. And over is going to be that game. It's going to go over. Going to go over unless there's really horrific turnovers inside the 5 or something like that. It's going to go over because it's you know, the clock is not affecting these two teams. The clock does not affect LSU and Mississippi, you know.
Southern Cal and Colorado.
well, I mean, and see, Colorado, even in the beginning of that, you know, it's funny because one of my losses last week was I had USC team total over 48.5. over 48.5. So I got that clocked all the way. The game's running beautifully. You're like, no way. In fact, even more, if you needed points, you're saying in the fourth quarter, Colorado, no depth, they scored enough to keep it going. And I was going to show you this. So today was a light day. Where'd the other one go? What the hell? Remember, I told you every day when you send money to the missions or this charity or that charity, there was 3. It just fell somehow. Oh, here it is. So I got only 3 today. Monday is actually the light day. Thursday is when they really bring this. I'll get about 40 of these. But this is what happens. You go to the mailbox and as a young kid, I would be all excited thinking, hey, maybe there's something good in there. But now this is what it is. Because most of the bills don't come in the mail anymore. You're paying paperless and, but that I wanted to show those guys. This is what I get. I get, today was missions, all missions today. So my mom sends to, we send to so many of them, and I say, just send them whatever you want. And she writes out a check. We have to still get checks. I still get checks when you almost never write a check to anybody, right? I pay all the bills online right off the bank account. But I don't want that to be in my bank account. So we still send a check, and it's 40, 50, 60 checks a month.
Wow.
But it makes her happy. That's all that matters, My mom's real holy. So since my dad died, but someday she'll say, this is getting hard for me. I say, well, we could stop. I say we could figure out a way to just tell them to take it off a credit card or something, or whatever. But then she'll say, no, I'll do it. So you got to give back. I mean, I'll tell you another funny story. Vegas is nothing like California. You know how you still see homeless on the corners and under the underpasses and whatever. So I used to leave every day, and I'd always make sure that I had $500 in $5 bills. I'd put some 10s, a few 20s, and then I'd even put about $41 bills. And when I rode down to wherever I was going, there were people in every single corner. And they stayed. I live in a pretty good area. I believe it's the best of all of Las Vegas. But so they know that too. They're not stupid. They're in a higher end district. They're on every corner, and I see them. But if I see you're all dirty, I know you're homeless. I could tell the difference, Part of me says, if you got the balls to stand out in 114 heat, I'm going to give you money anyway if you ask for it,
Right.
Now, of course, I got to almost get stuck at the light, but because there's so much traffic, you get stuck now. But I used to go out and I'd give 5, 5, 5. And sometimes there'd be 3 different people on the same corner, not in the same group either, 3 different. Because, it's busy. They know you're going to get stuck there. Give them all 5, 10. When the guy's got missing a leg or something, 20. When I was younger, we used to go to Burger King or whatever, and then I'd get food and I'd bring food because you'd say, hey, it's better to give food, so they're getting a meal, right? At least they're getting something. And they would usually be appreciative or whatever. There would be guys where you'd be like, I think I should be giving them my dad to say, you should buy a bottle of scotch for that guy, and you'd feel bad.
They've gotten to where they even, they don't lie. They need booze, right?
Some say that. When they say that, I give that guy 20. But I used to go out, and I wasn't going out every day, but I was giving easily 500, 600 a week and away to these people. Well, the cops came in and they stopped it now. Like I rarely see somebody on the corner, rarely, because they want you to go downtown to where the homeless shelters and everything are. And these homeless, they don't want to go there. They don't want to go there because where are they going to get money at? Right. I believe some of these people were probably walking home with $200 in a day, which is even $50 was a good day. You had to go work at McDonald's. You weren't even going to bring home $50. You get it? You were going to have to work for it. Now, the bad part is some of these people they're mental, but we don't have that anymore. And I I looked in my glove compartment today when I took my mom to the eye doctor, and there was a wad of money in there, and I laughed because I don't remember giving up money in the last month. Now, I haven't been out as much because football starts, and I'm out way less than I would in the summertime. But it's funny that that they've done that, and I watch on the news, and I
Now can't you go into the casinos and you can give it to the girls that are sitting there beside the slot machines trying to take the guys up to the rooms? Or
I used to see that so much more. Listen, my friends some of them were cops. My friend's dad was a cop. He retired, so he started working for Treasure Island undercover, and they were getting them every day, and then they know who they are right away, and they'll just be like, look, you can't come in here, because that's what they did. They'd sit up at the bar and then try to do that, and I saw it all the time. And like I said, I don't know how, I'm not a go out to the casino person. I took my mom and dad for years so they could play slots. My dad really enjoyed that until he passed. My mom, because he passed, she'll say, I don't want to do it anymore. I said, look, I'll take you. Let's just go have fun. Don't worry about it. Play for a couple hours. I'll walk around the casino. It's all good. I sit next to her and watch, but it's not my thing. I don't know how people do what they do. You're in the fantasy. I'm in the betting.
Yeah,
my mom, it's funny because
the Smoky. I mean, Krista, when we go, she's the type that we like to go stay at the Winds, and she turns $20, and if all of a sudden she hits 10, she's screaming, and people are looking, and they think that she won the jackpot. She's like, I won. Of course, but to her, that and she wants to cash out right away.
Oh yeah, my aunt does that when they come. My godparents, they're my aunt and uncle. When they come, they'll play like that, and I'll be like, no, and I'll give them money. I'll be like, look, here's $100 each. Right. Just play, because I want my mom to play. I want her to play.
Right.
I don't want her to feel that she has to quit because you've decided to quit, because you're not just going to sit there. When my sisters came, I did the same thing. I say, just keep playing. Don't worry about the money being lost. It's money is the fun is already won, because somebody else would say go to a show, which we did, but as they're fun, and people that play machines, that's fun. People that bet games. But what my mom says last night, I told you my mom knows all about betting. My dad understood it. And my mom says, this Mahomes isn't doing so good. I mean, throwing a lot of interceptions this year, and it was funny because he did it last night.
Especially in that second quarter or whatever. Well, I think was he forcing it to Kelce because of, crazy.
No, he forces a lot. So when it does good, you forget. You're like, oh, this guy's a magician. And then when he did it to Kelce and he threw it way short, he started mouthing to himself, throw the ball, throw it. It's too short. Throw it harder. And I was laughing because you're like, dude, you do this 8 times a game, and today is the one time you got burned,
It looks like he was flat. He wasn't he was flat, flat footing, throwing
that game, and that's why I said, watching tape, and even through the game, through the day, this team, that team, I don't even know some of the names, and I almost forget some of them. I think one was Miami, but when an offensive lineman goes down, most people just look at it as no big deal. Now, if they said that Kelce went down, and you're like, oh my God, Kelce's hurt, that offensive lineman to me is a big loss most of the time, especially if he was doing good. If his win rates were high, that guy coming in, if he was good, he wouldn't be a backup.
Yeah.
Okay. He wouldn't be the backup. He'd be on another team start. So you take a huge downshift. Now, there's a lot of bad offensive linemen starting, and because that's the hardest position to fill, and teams don't do it that often in the early rounds. And when they do get good ones, Detroit 4 years ago had terrible. They pick an early guy, and before you know it, now they got one of the best offensive lines. And
defense. I've got that Hutchinson from Michigan.
Well, yeah, and
he's an animal.
You have to slowly work your way. My team, the Redskins, the offensive line is bad, and if you were grading after the games, like yesterday, once again, I'd have to grade a D. And you just say to yourself, this, you're not going to be a playoff team with this line. It's just not going to happen. You know,
We gave Eagles a game though. They could have won that game.
Look, they have the worst head coach, and at the end of the game, you're the underdog. You're on the road. You scored the touchdown with no seconds left. None. That was the last play.
Right.
You go for 2 there. You go for 2. You got them on the ropes. You need this small yard to get a win. If you can't get that, you shouldn't be playing anyway. And the guy says, oh, I didn't do it because my guys, were tired. And, whatever. That was a long drive. The drive was 10 plays, 1 minute and 30 seconds. But this is the mentality, it's play not to lose. You play not to lose. When you stink, you're going to keep stinking. You got to play to win. And the Jets, for the first time, played to win last night. First time. They just let the kid go. Now, I'll tell you an example when this might help in the fantasy, but I don't think you'd do it anyway. Right now, you would never pick the Carolina quarterback, Bryce Young. Never. And it's not because he's bad. It's not because he's not good. The play calling is terrible. I'm going to do a write-up about the Pittsburgh Steelers. My friends back home are Steeler fans, a lot of them. Because when you're a young kid at my age, the Steelers were good. That's why they like the Steelers.
Right.
So
Bradshaw.
That's their team. They have the worst offensive coordinator calling plays maybe ever, all time. The numbers are staggering. And I watch games and the Carolina does it, and they'll be like, an announcer will be like, yeah, they ran the ball again on first down 19, out of 21 times, like 92%. Well, the other team knows that. So they're loading the box. And the kid's not going to change the play at the line of scrimmage. He's a rookie. So you got two guys. First pick, Bryce Young. Terrible offensive, playing not to lose, playing scared, not taking any chances. And then you have the kid at the Texans, Stroud, and the coordinator saying, let's fly. Go ahead, dude. I don't care if you throw 5 interceptions, let it fly. That kid's not only letting it fly. You know how I did my stock up, stock down? I'm going to do the top quarterback picks. That kid gets an A+. He has no interceptions for 4 weeks. For the first quarter of the year, the first month, no interceptions. It's almost impossible. It's near you. By bad luck, guys tip balls. They tip balls and get in. And that's why I said it's like I try my best to remember and track how interceptions happen. If you throw an interception on the last play of the first half, just taking a chance, throwing a Hail Mary and he intercept it, that's not an interception.
Did Matt Jones have bad luck yesterday, or did he just go to the Dallas?
He's just bad. He stinks. He stinks, and he has a stinky head coach. And what happened to his great offensive coordinator caller? He's just bad. They'll be getting another quarterback. This kid's not even going to last this year. But the point being that's lie. That's why I try to do these different articles, deceiving numbers. So if you didn't play all these games, and trust me, I see, there's a guy in Connecticut that started buying my picks in my first year. He used to come to the Stardust. He used to fly in like every other week. So he bought my picks, but then he bought other guys' picks. Go ahead. All right, you can make it. That's good. Can they do early? Mm-hmm. After, yeah, that's good. That's fine. I'll be perfect, actually. Okay. Yeah, I got that. They finally got that MRI approved properly. So now we're waiting on them, but I have to go. I'm supposed to go to the speech therapy place. I don't know what they're going to do, but like I said, I wasn't supposed to talk for 3 months. So of course I'll probably be coughing up for a year, but I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? I couldn't do it. Now I need them to go find out what happened. You did a surgery. Is there scar tissue? That's what he thinks. But then go back in and do it again. Then, you know what I mean? Let's clean this shit up because it's driving me crazy to do this all day long. And of course, if I don't talk, then I don't do it. Before I came on with you, I didn't talk for like 2 hours. And
Well, I
you're
won't
like,
make
wow,
it. We'll wrap it up in the next 10
No,
or
it's all
15 minutes.
good. It doesn't, you know, it's just, it is what it is. But there was a mass there and they got rid of it, I guess. But did you cause other trouble? You know, I'm thankful that it was near the voice box, but they didn't touch that. But I do have a problem with my neck. Like I got in 3 car accidents, right? In a matter of 1 year. In 1 year, 3 car accidents. Not my fault. Never had a car accident. My fault. One girl hit me at 120 miles an hour. I was sitting at the light. Boom. Drunk drive. Boom. So at the time, they're like, well, you broke these bones in your neck, you know, and you need a surgery. And then I said, what's the rate? Like, what could go wrong? If something goes wrong with that shit, what's going to happen? And they're like, well, you'll be paralyzed. I'm like, well, fuck, I ain't doing that then. You know what I mean? I'm too young. But now it's coming back to me. And the one doctor thinks that's what caused this, that's inflamed. It's pushing forward a little bit and it's pushing on my throat. So it's causing the skin, you know, it's causing a trouble there. So, but without the MRI, and here's the best part about life. You can have $10 billion in the bank. I have health insurance. They don't want to pay for this stuff. I understand it. They're a scam, right? It's a scam. It's a piece of paper that you pay a lot of money for, but when you need to use it, then they don't want to have to make you use it, right? So last Friday when they messed it up, I told you I was already at the hospital to get this done. It was set up a time, whatever. Even the guy's calling me at the hospital. He's like, hey, are you ready to, you know, where are you? And I'm like, I'm still in the lobby here. I'm checked in, but I can't, they're saying that the code's wrong. So he's like, let me check on that. And then the lady comes out and she's like, well, they made the wrong code. So we're not going to be able to do it. I go, I fasted last night. I'm here. I mean, you make me come here at, 8 o'clock in the morning. You said to be here at 6. You know, I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. Come on. I'll pay cash. I go, don't worry about it. I don't even need that. I can pay cash. You can't. It's against the law. Can't if you have health insurance. You're like, wow, okay then. So I have to go all the way home and then go through the whole process again, you know. So it's getting old is gonna suck. I mean, like I said, my mom, she has to get this, she has macular degeneration in the eye. So she has to get a needle in the eye. So she could take herself to appointments, but she can't take herself to that one. Because then, you're messed up. But she gets so nervous too, she hates that. But the doctor's a young guy, he's real good. But I mean, I say, man, I hope I never need that, that it's literally a needle going right into your eye. I watch a couple of, and now I don't even watch anymore. I just look away because it's like, but no, you say to yourself, don't
they
get
definitely
old.
They definitely have to sedate me for that one. Well,
Oh,
before
well,
I let you go, Gary,
this
is awesome.
But let me ask you a question. When we hire,
wait, I get to ask you first.
Go ahead.
You like Lockett? Why do you like Lockett?
Because Lockett, to me, I think is one of the best guys. He never drops the ball. He makes spectacular catches, especially it seems like in the end zone because they throw the deeper balls. And I just always like him. I always think that he's going to get 8 catches, 2 touchdowns. I always think every week that he's going to do that.
Better than Metcalf tonight.
Well, what's the prices for each guy?
Metcalf is a little more expensive. Lockett and the captain is less owned, so I like that play. So
yeah, I know that's where you're trying to grab some value. Now, other people might say the other guys, you know what I mean? Because the first, second, and third receivers are all almost number ones for that team. So that's why they score. But their defense has already given up about 20 plays of 20 yards or more. That's a lot, Seattle's defense. That's why they're going to play 35, 31 games. You know what I mean?
Now, I like the over. You like Hyatt. You said you like Hyatt taking the long one.
I think that this team has done a disservice with the play calling being so
Conservative.
conservative, the Giants. I mean, the Giants have 2 field goals in the first half in 3 games. That's almost hard to believe. I think this, like the Jets did last night, they're going to do that right from the get-go tonight. Just start taking shots down the field. When you do that, you pull back off, and then the running game gets working a little bit. Even Jones, I could see running tonight for 50 yards, because I think that once you open up the secondary with deep passes, then he breaks through. Mahomes did it last night against the Jets.
Yeah.
And even if you're a good defense, you watched as they were going deep, all the guys were running with the guys, and there's this, and you're like, how could you get a 3rd down and what was it, 20, 22?
Yeah.
How? But if you watch the play, if you get a chance, I watched that last night after the game was over. I went back and watched it again, and I watched how all the guys, even the one kid was looking for a second, and he turned and Mahomes started and he missed that. You know,
I mean, you talk about Duke, it's the same thing. That's how Notre Dame won. Hartman took off and ran on the 3rd, and like same thing, right?
Yeah,
His
and
receivers are going deep.
I believe defenses, that's bad defense. You're not doing that to me if I'm the defense. You got to complete the pass. Yeah. You got to make the pass on me, even if I have one less guy helping to cover. I'm having a guy right there, the best tackler I got. He ain't doing that. And he ain't running if the Red Sea ain't open. He ain't running. He's going to pass it. He's going to get to the line of scrimmage, and he's going to say, can I beat that guy? I don't think so. But when the Red Sea is completely open, then they run, you know. And I just think that it's scary, because when you look at teams, especially in NFL, the head coach is the head coach. They got 20 guys in the press box helping. How come nobody knows when to call timeout? I got to look back at the notes. I can't even remember now. There's 3 teams that had no idea when to call timeout. It drove me nuts. Like 10 seconds went off, and from 35 to 25. You're like, what are you doing? Come on. Well, somebody didn't call down there and say, timeout, timeout. My mother's calling out timeouts. My dumb friends are calling out the timeout. The head coach can't call they don't know. They're so caught up like a fan of the game when you have to be 2 plays ahead. Or the guy's going like this. The quarterback's doing this. He's trying to call in the play.
Can't hear.
And he's saying, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Well, dude, there's 20 seconds left in the game. You gotta.
Well, that's how the Vikings lost that game before the last game. Cousins couldn't hear, right? They were down there.
That was 2 weeks ago, but you have a play like this. This is the play. Something. And you just do that. And they'll get the guy, and he's on the wrong side, and you're running him back, and you're like, just stay there. That guy's gonna lose 5 seconds, you dumb dicks. But this is every week, and that's the only downside when you say, wow, this is what I'm doing for a living. Imagine I'm betting on dumbbells for the most part. And that's
tonight,
why I said,
I'll let you ask your question, but I wrote an article, haven't published it yet, but you know, tonight there's $1 million first prize contest in the Millie Maker for DraftKings, and they're $150, $20. So what I did, I've been taking notes from my studies, listening to people like you, looking at the optimizer, contrarian edge optimizer, looking who it likes, doesn't like, got to figure out who to put in the captain mode, who to put in the flex mode. What I don't understand, a lot of people like to do fantasy for fun, right? But then there are pros. My goal is to be a pro in fantasy like you're a pro in betting, and you don't become a pro at anything unless you put in a lot of hours, right? Like you just said, you told me when we first started talking, how many hours
16
a day?
hours every day. There's no day off. You know what I mean? There's no day off. You have to work around, you know, if I decided to take my mom or a girlfriend out for whatever I'm going to do for 3-4 hours, that just means that night I'm up till 4 in the morning instead of 2, you know, and then the next night till 4. That's the price you have to pay back. There's no.
My question to you before you ask me the questions is, if you were in a contest tonight with your skills to win $1 million, how much focus would you put on it, right? There's 150 different lineup
Oh, sure.
variations. I only require one, and I've been fortunate. I've tied for second 2 times in the last, or I've tied for first 2
Right.
times in the last week, and then I placed second yesterday in the early London
Which was a good one.
game. And it's not luck, it's preparation. You
Sure.
need some luck along the
Sure.
way, just like you do in
Of
betting.
course.
But
Of course.
the importance of where I'm going with this is what you do to become a pro versus what some of the people that say they're experts, right? And what I'm beginning to understand to do, I mean, $1 million is $1 million, right? I mean, how many
Sure.
times can you win in one day
Of
$1 million,
course.
right?
No, I can't do that.
Right.
I can't do it. I go into every day. There's no chance of me being $1 million more in my pocket tomorrow. No,
Right.
zero. And it will never even come
And you're
close to it.
wagering it in this, it's $3,000 for, you know, if I play the max 150 for 20, so to turn 3,000 into $1 million, or to turn, what's different between what you do and what I do, you're either going to win or you're going to lose or you're going to tie, right? Of that 3,000. What I do and what fantasy players do, there's a chance I could lose all the 3,000. There's a chance I could make back most of that 3,000, or there's that chance against tonight, which is probably 176,000 some odd entries.
Sure.
That I can float one of those to the top. So the more you're understanding that, what I'm learning from you is I don't care if 149 of those entries fail.
Lose. Right.
But if one floats up and it happens to get, then that's what it's all about.
And
a lot of people go in and they don't, you know, and I'm not, but there are pros, just like there are pros where you are. How many pros would you say percentage-wise are at the level that you're at? Out of all the people that bet, how many are pros in the world?
In the world, in the United States, for say NFL and college football, I would say maybe there's 300. You know what I mean?
Out of, so what percentage is that? 1% or like it's a real
way
small percent of people that are really good, right?
It's less than one. It's way. It's 1/10 of 1%, if that, even if that. You know, but again, the difference is that you know, you're talking about like with the fantasy, and people told, you know, I told you I turned down the big job offer because the guy said your name will correlate. It doesn't matter if it's fantasy. And I just didn't feel right to do that, but it doesn't mean I could do it. Of course I could do it. But if you look at like yesterday, my picks were Bills over, Miami Bills over for the big play, 2-unit over. But I had Bills team total over, 49ers team total over, Chargers team total over. So in essence, I would have been betting those quarterbacks feeling that they're going to have big days, right? Now, of course, I told you that, oh, well, Diggs is going to have a big day. A lot
I was going to say, you nailed Dallas D, you nailed Allen, quarterback, Diggs, Buffalo. I mean,
but but part of Diggs was, I've learned this over the years. If Diggs, a guy like Diggs, has a bad game, and I would have given you another one. When I talk to you, I'm only going off of what's in my head. The Eagles had the same scenario as Diggs, and it was Brown. Okay. When they're on the sidelines in a game and they're crying because they ain't getting the ball, the next week they're getting the ball. Okay. Yeah. And the next week when they're going to be throws, and that's why in the first week, the Bills played the first week, and Diggs was not happy all off season. You know, they went back and forth. He didn't get the ball in the playoffs, and he was pissed off, blah, blah, blah. He's a baby, but this is what these guys are too. They're prima donnas. But Allen said to himself, I'm going to get him the ball. I got to get this off. Once, got to make this guy happy. What did he do in the first game? He threw the ball to him, even double covered in the end zone, and he interceptions. So he got burned for it. So then he had to go back to a normal. They probably said, listen, that you overdid it. Just let it come to you. Okay, so a couple weeks come, and Diggs ain't having that 10-catch, 4-touchdown day that he wants. Yesterday was the day, and yesterday was the team to do it, against Miami. Their top cornerback was out. Their second quarterback's a little hurt, but the bottom line is he torched them. He torched them. They were going to torch. It was almost, now we also caught a break that a Buffalo game, even on October 1st, 66 degrees, sunny, beautiful
the
day.
weather was
That was
perfect.
beautiful. That was even a help for Miami. Miami was going to that game saying much better to come here today than December 14th, right?
Right.
Miami moved the ball. They made some mistakes that they were due for a little letdown, but that was the theory. And Brown cried on the sidelines last week too. Got in a fight with Hurts, and you're like, "What are you doing, bro?" And then after they're like, "Look, they're buddies." Yeah, I know they're buddies. I know who's buddies. But the bottom line is he's getting the ball today, and guess what? They just kept shooting him all the chances they could. He caught 2 big touchdowns. I don't know how many points he got, but he would have been another one just off of that. Now you're also betting the top receivers in the league anyway, right? Yeah. Anyway, yeah. The Hyatt kid tonight for the Giants is not going to the coaches and saying, "I need to get the ball more. You know who I am?" They're like, "Fuck, I don't care who you are. We'll get you one when you get it. You get it." But the top receivers can do that. So there's always going to be a game that I would believe that was the games yesterday. Now, McCaffrey got 4 touchdowns yesterday. Like, to me, if I was starting a team tomorrow and I have first pick, he's my pick. I'm taking him. Yeah. He's unbelievable. He bulldozes guys bigger than him. He never goes down by the first tackle. And so every week, like yesterday, if I'm thinking that San Fran's going to go over, he's going to have a big day probably. Purdy's a good quarterback, but 20 times is like the maximum they want to throw.
Priced him, yeah. And what DraftKings or FanDuel does is they price him so high that it's hard to fit in. You knew, but so his ownership wasn't what you thought it would be. The key to that was Wilson on the other side of the ball, that receiver for Phoenix. He came out of Stanford and he had 2 touchdowns. So he was less expensive. You could put him with CMC. Fields was a play. He was either going to do or was going to dud, and he had a great against Denver, who you saw.
No, and that's where see, I don't know the cost. That 1 week you have to just shoot me what these guys are number wise. I see it when they pick them on the ESPN and they make the lineup and they show this guy's 7,000, this guy's 2,000, this whatever. Yeah. And I already know, I'm not stupid, that Mahomes is going to break your bank. Brady was going to break your bank. Right. They were going to take a lot of your money. So they had to have a good day.
And most everybody knows that. So the key to winning, like tonight, it's only 2 teams, right? And you know who, it's going to be Danny Dimes, Metcalf, I think, is number 1. It's going to be the Metcalf, the Danny.
Geno Smith.
Yeah, Geno Smith, Walker. Right. So there's like 7. I call them the Magnificent 7. But everybody's going to have to make a choice. Float them around in your captain, but that's not what's going to win because everybody's going to do it. What's going to win is going to be like a Hyatt.
Right.
Not a lot of people are going to play Hyatt.
That's why I say Hyatt, because I believe that this team watching their tapes, they're not taking any chances. And I don't know why. I don't understand it. They didn't play. They played more chancy last year. They're scared and they're playing not to lose. And you lose all the time when you play like that.
Well, so I think you're right, though. Against Seattle, it's a time to take chances because their defense is soft.
Look, your season's going to be over. Look, they're not a playoff team anyway. They're not going to the playoffs. I'm a Redskin fan. On Twitter, I follow all these Redskin fans. It's fun. They are so discouraged, and you want to be like, dude, we're not going to the playoffs. We never were. You're just fool's gold.
I thought he looked better though, Howell, yesterday.
They were, and that's what you're going to get, up and down. Next week will be a down, up and down. That's just the way it goes. You hope by game 10 you could decide that they could say, look, this kid's in it. We're in it now. Whatever you do, just keep learning. Because next year is when we're going to turn the corner. But fans don't want to hear that in week 4. And then they were even talking like, well, they're going to have to pull Howell out and put in the backup because he's experienced, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, we eat this season, you know.
Well,
But
who is the
but that-
backup there?
The backup is a good kid from Cleveland, not Bridgewater. It's that is the backup's name. My mind is so jumbled after a long weekend, but
No worries.
I'll tell you in a
Doesn't
second.
matter.
The kid from
Doesn't matter.
Cleveland.
We'll focus on tonight's game.
he's
Well,
been good,
I
but-
did, without you giving a pick, I kind of got a feeling you like the over because you said it could be in the over.
I would say that this game, weather being good, not windy in there, it's a windy stadium. If there's wind, that creates a lot of havoc. But Seattle, like I said, they've given up 20 plays at 20 yards or more. That's in 3 games, not even 4. That's bad. That's a bad number. But that's why every week it's a high-scoring game with Seattle. You know what I mean? They have weapons. They have runners. You know, in fact, like if you were going to take a guy who might be cheaper, what's the kid from UCLA, the running back?
Bobo.
No, the running back.
Oh, Charbonnet. Zach.
Right. That's a guy.
Yeah.
That's a guy. He's been playing better, that he might start getting the bigger load, you know.
Yeah.
So he's got a propensity to break a couple big runs too, you know. So again, I'm not fantasy.
Those are the things that win. I know you don't understand, but see what's going to happen is Gary, it's just human nature. Everybody wants to smash in the high price guys, right? And they just can't. They're going to go Walker. They can't click on Charbonnet, even though he's cheaper. So what I'm going to do tonight, I'm taking defenses out. I don't think the defenses will score. I mean, I don't think either one. Maybe Danny Dimes throws somehow.
But I wouldn't even play a running back for the Giants. I wouldn't even go that route. I would just say, F it, pray that they're going to throw it 44 times. And if they do that, that's less runs anyway. The guy wasn't going to, you know, make it, you know, touchdowns that way. And to be honest with you, it's almost like if they get to the 2-yard line now with no Barkley, Jones probably gets the touchdown. So if you have Jones, you're getting the best of both worlds anyway. You know what I mean? I could see Jones running one in from 20 yards because
good strategy. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, because he's a runner. You know, it's like they wanted Fields to run the ball more. I'm still not a guy that says Jackson has run less. Jones, they shouldn't be running. Pat Mahomes shouldn't be running. Nobody should be running unless you have to, and then you slide, and you don't even take the extra 5 yards. You slide way before that because it's a long season, and these guys still late hit you. Like the guy's sliding, like the guy's running at you full speed. Somehow he's just because you slid in, and then they get a penalty. You still took the hit. The hit was taken. You shouldn't be doing that. That's bad coaching. It's bad coaching. So, you know, but that's all we see. College, oh my God, there's so many bad coaches that when you see somebody do something smart, you're like, fucking, I got to write this down. I know in my head, but you're like, wow, I got to give that guy a fruit basket and send that to him in the mail. Like that's genius. And, but you don't, I do that very rarely, you know, and that's why betting is a different, you know, if you keep losing in your fantasy entries, that costs, you're going to have to win at some point to get the money back. Where even if I'm on a split and run, you know, like last week, like I told you guys the other day, like last week I went 4-4 and 2-2, right? Nobody made money with that, a little bit because the best bets won, but no real money, especially if you paid me for just a 1-week deal. But the idea is that my worst week is going to be only a couple games under, but my good weeks are going to be 8-9 games over, 7, 8, 9. So, and it's just a grind, you know, you take it. I'll give you an example just to teach you about the system of how my business works. If you're buying picks, you would never give out an even number of plays, say on Saturday or Sunday. Say I sold all my picks for Saturday for $49. You would never give 8 plays, 6 plays, 4 plays, 2 plays. I do it, but in reality, that's a no-no. That's stupid because you want to give 3, 5, 7, 9 so that if you're 2-1, it's a winning day. 2-2 is a losing day. You get it? So if you bought picks for the day, and I said, I have 3 picks tomorrow for Saturday, say it was Friday, $49. If I give 3 picks and they go 2-1, everybody's going to be happy. That's a winning day. They paid me, but they won. if I get 4 plays and they go 2-2, they didn't lose really, but they didn't win and they paid for that. So they're like unhappy. You get it?
Yeah.
But I go by the whole year. So last week, when I had 8 plays, I didn't go, I need a 9th play, or I got to cut one of these I like down to 7. I don't do that because I don't worry about the 1 week guy. I worry about the season. And I tell people, look, you're on from day 1 to the end of the season, Super Bowl. Grade me on the last day after the Super Bowl. Grade me then. How did you finish then? Because along the way, I'm not going to make up games. It's no different than I don't have a play tonight. I had a big weekend. I could show you my phone with every degenerate that just, it's almost like, you got anything tonight? And you're like, well, I sent a text to you this morning that I'm passing. I was hoping maybe you saw something. All right, well, listen, I'm in a contest. They use this line, and they say, if you had to pick the game, because look, I get it. Look,
if your life depended on it.
It's not that life depended on it all the time, but you have to remember, if you're not a Giants or Seattle fan, with no bet on the game, is it really that fun to watch at? I know it's not. For me,
it is for me because I got fantasy players.
Well, you're always look. That's why fantasy got so big, because now you could have minuscule action, but you have action on all the games. That's why, like, my friends at home watch on just the Red Zone. And I'm like, dude, you just watch Red Zone?
Oh, I do. I have it on here.
No, I know. No. And I'm like, and they're like, you don't? And I'm like, dude, I got 7 TVs. And this is the first year I watch Red Zone, because YouTube will put 4 games and they keep changing, like, you keep scrolling and they keep changing them. So I might hit one where I'm like, okay, here's the 4 games I don't have on all the other TVs. And I put it there and I can pay attention. And if I see somebody scoring or close to it or whatever, I could hit the button and listen to that one. You get it? But that's what they do. But they're doing Red Zone because they have all these players. And they're telling me, like, Gary, I need Lockett or whoever. I need this guy, that guy. And I'll be like, okay, I'm going to root for that. And then I'm thinking, I wish you didn't even tell me, because now I'm kind of watching that extra. And I'm like, shoot it to this dude, but that's one thing though. At fantasy, you'll never get shut out from your bet. I'm shut out. Yeah. So that's why I say that I'm thankful that I have a few outs. I have a few people that are in the casinos that I have my money, they bet, but I have customers and bookies that can put bets in for me that they're not worrying, they're not worrying. In fact, I'm helping the bookie that I bet with back home, because whoever I bet, he moves the line. You know what I mean? And then my friends will call up and say, hey, did you bet this game with him? Because how come that line's off or whatever? Back in the day, the bookies used to just use the newspaper, the morning newspaper, the line.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that's all you could see, right?
They didn't even worry about it. You know what I mean? And I would see those lines and I crushed them every week. And it would be like, I wouldn't even tell anybody my picks, because I would be afraid. I don't want the guy to get beat up by a lot of people, but that's why, it's partly why, again, the funniest thing was when my dad told me, he said, look, he sat me down. And I mean, my dad, I never did wrong. He never hit me. He hit me once. And it wasn't like he hit me. We were young kids and the neighbor was real sick, and we would run around the house playing games. And he said, hey, you guys, not today. Joe next door is sick. He's got cancer or whatever. And that's his bedroom. Don't, make noise. He's sick. And I didn't know how bad sick was. And I'm only like 11. So we did it a second time. He said, I told you that. We still kept doing it. A third time, he grabbed me by the shirt. And he said, do you not listen, boy? I told you Joe's sick. Jesus, And I thought to myself, and my mom's like, oh, don't put your hand on him like that. And then he said, I told him 3 times. And so I never stepped out of line, ever. I thought, you show respect. And then he sat me down and I thought, oh, shit. And he said, look, man, I got to have a talk. It's time. I'm like, time for what? And he's like, it's time for you to sell everything here and you're going to have to move because I'm worried that you're going to beat these guys for a lot of money. Now you're up to 3,000 a game and they're not going to pay you 1 week and you and your buddies there, you'll go kill these guys, you know? And I says, yeah, I know. I says, I worry about that too. I said, what am I going to do? And it was so funny because my mom's brother, my uncle lived in California, lived in Norco, California. And he had moved there when he was a young kid too. He moved to California at 18 years old, 17, whatever, as soon as he was done high school. But he called us and he said, I'm moving to Las Vegas. And I was like, what? And so he said, yeah. And he says, you could come live with me. I'm building a big house. You don't even have to worry, you know? And I says, and that's what made the transition easier. You know what I mean? Because now I didn't know anybody, not even one person. So you're thinking I'm moving. I might as well have been moving to Boise, Idaho, other than the weather was good when you don't know anybody. It's not like your girlfriend lives there and you're moving for that, or your brother moved there, your cousin, somebody lives here, you know, and then they're telling you, and you visited them a few times. Like I could easily move to Atlanta right now because I have a lot of family there too. A lot in Florida, but a lot in Atlanta, which I like it there. The one thing I frown on ever moving back is, of course, the weather, but the time zone. Like I'll give you an example. My best friends at home, their son plays hockey in the NHL. So fucks me all up because I'm a Flyers fan as a kid my whole life. I don't change my teams. But then I moved to Vegas, and of course, I'm going to root for the Knights. It's a hometown team. I'm not going to root for the Raiders because that's different to me. But the Knights, it was a good story, and now they've won. So I'm a Knights fan. We watch the Knights too. My dad used to enjoy it. So now my friend's kid makes it to the NHL. So he gets picked up. He's playing in the minors. They call him up for Tampa Bay. So he's on the Tampa Bay Lightning for the second half of the season 3 years ago. They go to the Stanley Cup. He scores the winning goal, the only goal in the clinching game.
Wow.
Yep. So now we have a third team. So now we're watching his games too.
Right.
And because they're good, they're on the national game a lot. And then I'm like, shit, I never bought the hockey package, but I guess we have to now. So I buy the hockey package.
Now you got to figure out how to bet on it.
Well, but I don't bet on the hockey much because the lines are this like baseball. So can you get good numbers? Like even my Phillies tomorrow, they're $1.60. So if I bet that, and I might, but if I bet that and I lose, that's 1.6 losses.
Yeah.
I have to win 2 games at an even, which they're not going to be. They're going to be the favorite.
What do you think? But haven't they started doing now like minus a run or something? They've more
well, you could minus a run and a half, but then you could win and not win. I'm not going to bet that way, right? So it cuts your bets down. So he was on Tampa Bay. They're always a $2 favorite because they're a good team. So like the Knights became so good, they're $2, $2.30, $2.40. It's unbettable to me. Now the parlay bettors, if you wanted to bet that, then you'd say, okay, I'm going to bet, say the Knights were tonight or tomorrow, and the Knights are 240, Tampa Bay 240, and the Phillies are down, and you put them all in a parlay. Money line parlay. That's different than -7, -1, that's different. Right. But so you do that, that's more and less for fun. You know what I mean? It's not your normal betting procedures. But so I got him. So now though, what's funny is I was talking to them the other day because he becomes a free agent and they can't afford him because they got 3 kids making like the highest pay in the NHL. So I'm like, oh, well, grew up a Devils fan. They live in New Jersey. I was hoping he was going to go to Devils, Flyers, or Rangers. One of those 3, then they would always be an hour away to see him play, right? And he would live there. He would have lived probably in New Jersey. Not
the Capitals?
Or Capitals would be 2 hours. It's not the perfect scenario, but that would be my 4th. That would be the 4th one. So he signed with Colorado. So he's on Colorado now. But Colorado's a West Coast. So that means that when they were watching a game, when the 4 o'clock game here, it's 7 there, right?
Yeah.
that means that he's going to start at 7 a lot here, which means they're starting at 10 o'clock there. They're going to be up until 1. And when I would go home here and there over the years during the season for a wedding or something or Christmas time, and then it would be funny because we'd all go out. All my friends would come out, and it would be Monday Night Football, and the game doesn't start till 8:15, right? Which I'm used to it at 5:15. I love it, you know. And then it's halftime, and half the kids are like, "Okay, Gary, I'll see you, man. You're going to be here for a little bit, or if not, I'll see you next visit," right? So my friends are like family, but I'm like, "You're going home? The game's at halftime." And they're like, "Dude, I got to go to work in the morning. I can't stay up until, midnight. And by the time I get home, 1 o'clock when they have to go to work at, say, 7. So that's the one thing that I would have a tough time moving, because I like being on the West Coast. There's never my late games are fine. 7 o'clock, I'm done at 10 o'clock, where their late game is 1 o'clock in the morning, right? That's a much different scenario if you have to get up in the morning for a job. When it's funny because I'm up till 2 or 3 in the morning a lot of days anyway. I mean, I don't know how late you stay up, but I'd rather wake up.
I go to bed at 9, by 9 o'clock at night, but I'm up at I wake up about 4. I wake up at 1 and I do some follow-ups, and then I get back up about 5 every morning. So
I had a girlfriend for a lot of years that she was a gym freak, workout freak. So she had to be at work at 8:30. So she would get up at 4 o'clock every morning to go to work, to go to the gym for 2 hours first. Yeah. She had to go to the gym, she had to, couldn't gain an ounce. She was nuts. So
let me, I got a
go ahead.
Call at the bottom of the hour. No, this has been amazing. I'm going to.
Well, what's funny, like I said, real fast, is though she would get up, but she went to bed at 9. But there would be days where I would still be up at 4 o'clock, and she's working and she's getting up, and she'd be like, "You still up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got to get to bed though. I'm starting to, I'm going to crash here." So it's a tough relationship because you're on two different, in the summer, it would have been different. But in the football season, say, and basketball, although basketball is much easier for me than football is. Football's 10 times the work than basketball is. It's a totally different aspect of betting.